musicians, hello artists, thank you so much for tuning in today. I want to extend my apologies that the Lotus Chamber Music Festival has been canceled this year in light of the global pandemic that we have all faced so much hardship because of. It saddens me that you haven't been able to collaborate together and make such beautiful music, and I hope you all are staying safe at home, sheltering in place, and finding new ways to express your creativity. I am also very excited that the staff and the artistic director at the music festival have thought outside the box to connect you all with unique content that's meaningful and may be somewhat out of the ordinary for you as musicians. So I wanted to introduce myself. My name is Caroline Weeks, and not only am I a classically trained musician, a violist to be specific, I also went on in my career to take a complete 180 shift in direction and complete my degree in nutrition and dietetics. And I am now a practicing registered dietitian nutritionist. So, obviously, this is a big change, and to give you kind of some insight into my journey to this career and the shift that took place in my life, I'll kind of start from the beginning. So, maybe not so atypical from other musicians, I started playing the viola in 4th grade. And no, I did not start by playing the violin. I am a purebred violist, and I'm proud to say that. So growing up, I was extremely serious in my music, despite being the only musician actually in my family apart from my sister. And all throughout high school, I was involved in extracurriculars with music, such as chamber orchestra, all-state, gigging. I kind of did it all, and I knew from, the beginning I wanted to pursue music, and I was on a fast track to becoming what I hoped was a concertizing violist or an orchestral player, quartet musician type thing. After high school graduation, I went on to college, and I got accepted at the Jacobs School of Music at Indiana University, Bloomington, and received a scholarship to attend there and practice and play. I went there for 2 years and had a good experience, and I learned a lot of things. I met a lot of incredible people, including Shinoa, who's the artistic director for this festival here. But I had sort of a personal revelation while studying there, and that was that I was experiencing very high levels of anxiety and stress. And I'm sure that's not a novel concept, right? In the conservatory environment, anxiety levels are oftentimes quite elevated as we receive daily critique from our teachers, our peers, our colleagues, but really it's ourselves that is the biggest critic, I think at least. And I looked around while in the conservatory at my peers and my colleagues, and I saw, in some cases, a lot of very unhealthy lifestyles being led. And it kind of scared me, and I felt like in some ways that wasn't a sustainable lifestyle for myself. And so, as musicians studying in the conservatory, we are so focused on music theory, music composition, piano, master classes, lessons, really kind of got the blinders onto music. We don't have to take a lot of the hard science courses. But I did have to fulfill one science course while at Indiana, and that was a nutrition course. And I got in, and I absolutely, from the start, loved the content and the information I was learning, and kind of saw this as my calling and my passion. It was really the catalyst for me wanting to switch careers. So to make a long story short, what happened was I decided to sort of reassess my options and my path. And I actually decided to drop out of the music conservatory and transfer to a state school in my home state of Iowa where I grew up. So I did that. It was not only a place where I could fulfill my degree in nutrition and dietetics, but it was also home to a very, very good music school, and I was able to simultaneously finish both undergrad degrees. Granted, it was a very long haul. I spent 6 long years in my undergrad, and I was a super senior by the end of it, but it was worth it to me. And like I said, I finished my Bachelor of Arts in music and my Bachelor of Science in Dietetics all in one fell swoop. So after that, as registered dietitian nutritionists, we have to go on and fulfill an additional year of schooling and supervised clinical practice. And that is involving, working alongside doctors, other members of the clinical multidisciplinary team in hospitals, clinic-based settings, etc. So that was where I sort of found this passion for clinical work, and is actually what I went on to do. I currently work as a clinical registered dietitian, working with patients, some of whom are very medically complex, and then others just want to learn more about ways to improve their wellness, like maybe some of you. Now, the thing that makes dietitians different from nutritionists and what makes us unique is that we have to fulfill a board certification or a credentialing exam that, boy, I studied for years for. And this allows me to practice as a registered dietitian, or RD. And the thing about it is, obviously I underwent all these years of education. Anybody can kind of say that they're a nutritionist, right? So that's why it's so important that you really look and evaluate under a microscope where you get your nutrition information from, because, the lady next door can call herself a nutritionist, but might actually be sharing some really harmful advice, or advice that just isn't sustainable and might not work for you. So as a registered dietitian, we have to take this board credentialing exam to practice ethically and on an evidence-based matter within the scientific literature and everything. So probably a lot more information than you wanted, but I just wanted to share that insight. Maybe some of you guys are feeling the same ways that I did in the conservatory, and I want to give you hope that, there are other options, and you can still continue to play and perform and gig and all of that. I still do, and I love it, but I also found this other avenue of passion. And in addition to practicing clinically, I teach, I lecture, teach medical students, PT students, physical therapy, in other words. So I do a lot of things. And some of you may have worked with a registered dietitian yourself, because we are found in so many different areas, like grocery stores, corporate business settings where we do wellness counseling. We're found in sports teams, you name it. So we're all over the place. But anyway, today I am so excited because I have always wanted to sort of bring my career full circle and counsel and teach musicians like yourself. And this is actually my first formal opportunity to do so. So the purpose of today's video is to first and foremost be educational and hopefully enlighten you. I am going to give you a bit of a glimpse into the day in the life of a registered dietitian and show you what I eat. Don't judge me, please. You might be surprised that it's maybe not so different than you. And I will also kind of give you some insight as to why I choose these things. A theme that I hope you'll find is that food is cultural, food is gives us emotions, food fuels us. It does so many things, and there's so much that goes into nutrition and proper fueling of the body. It's not so much just protein, carbs, fats, etc. So I'll share that, and then I will also share some nutrients of current concern that you should think about maybe tweaking your diet to incorporate, as well as some other nutrients that I think you should avoid in order to have the best performances and to fuel your best practice sessions. Because as we all know, we're athletes of the small muscles, and we need to fuel our bodies appropriately to have good energy and to also regulate our emotions, because research shows that food and the food that we give our bodies and nourish our bodies with affects our mental state as well. So really exciting. Finally, I'm going to round out by sharing some budget-friendly tips for nutrition, because I'm sure we're all in the same boat. We're all worried about our finances and trying to organize our budget, etc. And especially in light of the coronavirus pandemic, this has taken such a harsh toll on musicians. Perhaps you're still in school, perhaps you're between gigs. Perhaps you've been stripped of your ability to perform in an orchestra or a community group, and so your livelihood is at risk. So definitely want to be mindful of that, because as food gets more and more expensive, we've got to find ways to still prioritize nutrition, but also the dollar. So I hope you guys learn a thing or two today, and feel free, if you're interested in learning more, to reach out to me. I'm all over social media. My main home is in Instagram. You can find me at The Clinic Dietitian, spelled with a T. I also have a website, theclinicdietitian.com, and like I said, would be more than happy to collaborate and connect with more musicians like yourself. So with that, let's dive in. Okay, you guys, so as you saw from that day in the life of a dietitian snippet, you may have hopefully learned a few things on ways to incorporate colorful fruits, vegetables, high fiber foods into your diet. You may have also realized, she really doesn't eat much different than me, or wow, she doesn't avoid carbohydrates altogether. Again, I hope you guys took away something a little bit beneficial from that. So I have a nice spread all around me right now, and I'm gonna walk you through some of my favorite foods that are budget friendly and offer a powerhouse of nutrition to fuel your day. What do I wanna start with? So I think let's start with carbs, because as I mentioned, carbs are not the enemy. Carbs are what gives our body, and most importantly, our brain, energy, and we need them to fuel our days. You'll see a lot on the internet about the keto diet or avoiding carbs completely to lose weight. And while that might work in the short term, it just is not sustainable, and it might do your body more harm in the long term rather than good. So I wanted to show you guys this option here. I don't know about you, if any of you have a Costco membership. I do, because I live in a household with other people, but this is their brown rice and quinoa option. The reason I like it is because quinoa is a complete protein. It offers all the essential amino acids in a grain, and it also offers a little bit more protein than some other grains. So protein is important because it not only fuels our muscles and gives our muscles energy, even the little ones, to strum a few bars or whatever you want to call it, play a passage really quickly like Paganini. We need protein to fuel our day. For you, generally it's going to be, 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. I know there'll be people who ask, well, how much protein do I need per day? That's what the general guidelines and recommendations state. But we can find sources of protein in our grains, our whole grains that we offer. So that's why I like quinoa, which is really a grain type food group, but it offers that extra bit of protein. The reason I also like this type of product is because it's prepackaged, which means convenient. I'm all about the convenience with foods, and hey, I'm not anti-packaged foods as long as we watch a few things and if they make your day that much simpler. This one is pretty low in sodium. Sodium or salt is something that puts our heart at risk if we're having elevated levels in a chronic state, and so it's going to be found in higher amounts in our processed packaged foods. Now, what do I say by processed? Everything that comes through a manufacturer or a factory is going to be processed, but processing sometimes can strip nutrition out of foods, predominantly whole grains, such as the fiber and the B vitamins. So that's why we recommend 100% whole grain wheat bread as opposed to white bread, because it offers more fiber. So speaking of fiber, I've got some other high fiber grain options for you. So as you saw in my highlight reel of my diet, I showed you the pasta dish that I made. And that pasta is Banza pasta. Maybe some of you guys have seen it. Don't worry, I'm not sponsored by them, but I just love the product. And this pasta is actually made from chickpeas, which means that it's going to be higher fiber and higher protein. So when I was in the music conservatory and at Indiana, we always had this amazing spread at the dining hall where we could get pasta, pizza, whatever. And kiddos tended to gain the freshman 15 while at college, right? And maybe some of you guys during quarantine are worried about that extra weight gain. This pasta option offers you a little bit lesser calories as compared to the normal option, and I highly recommend it because it's really delicious and not too expensive. Another option that I have that's budget friendly but nutritious and easy, because convenience is the name of the game with you busy musicians, is this brand, Kodiak Cakes. This is a little sample pack, but essentially it's a whole grain pancake mix that literally all you do is you just mix water in with it, stir it up, and you're good to go for morning pancakes. You can meal prep the pancakes, you can add extra mix-ins like fiber, chia seed, flax seed, which are good fiber options. And this is really, really delicious and is gonna give you that extra bit of fiber, whole grains, protein, etc. Alrighty. Speaking of protein, I've got this yogurt option. So this is a Greek yogurt, which Greek yogurt is a type of processing that the yogurt goes through that makes it a little bit higher protein, which is good. Because of the pandemic, I found that there have been many food shortages out there. This isn't the normal brand that I get all the time, but it's not too bad. And this was actually all I could find at the grocery store. Normally what I recommend with yogurt, which is a great convenience food, is to get plain Greek yogurt, and if you can, put just fresh fruit in with it. And the reason I say that is because a lot of added sugars can be snuck into yogurt as a food in general. It's a general rule of thumb is we want to avoid our added sugar intake. Why do I say that for musicians? And why is it not good to have an overload of sugar? That's because too much sugar causes our blood sugar to rise, which can make us feel jittery or kind of foggy. And then sometimes we can have a crash after that intake of a lot of sugar, which then gives us, brain fog, fatigue. It just doesn't make us feel our normal selves. So in general, yogurt is one of those foods that we want to be really mindful of sugar added into it. Another type of food would be cereals, granola bars, all of that. Generally things that come in a box. So this Oikos 000, again, it doesn't have the actual nutrition facts on it, but this, I believe, has a sugar alcohol added to it, which means that the body processes that in a different way. So it's not sugar per se, which makes it a little lower calorie. Again, not my first choice. I love just regular plain Greek yogurt with fruit added into it. All right, speaking of another source of protein that is extremely budget friendly is tofu. Now, despite what you hear in the media, soy is not a bad thing for men, women, people in all countries across the world, especially Asian countries, eat soy in large amounts, and they are not at risk of cancer. So a lot of that information is actually false that you hear. And so soy can actually be an excellent source of calcium, which our body needs for bone, stabilization, bone growth, depending on how old we are. And this is a great source of protein. Another reason I love this plant-based source is because it is a little bit more gentle on our environment, takes a lot more energy and puts a lot more carbon out into the world when we process meat than it does when we process plants and things of that nature. So I have vowed to myself that I'm trying to incorporate more plant-based meals, though I don't follow a vegan or vegetarian diet per se. I love vegetables and I love incorporating plant-based foods in there. So I want to say last night, this is organic, it was still only about $3 for this huge block of tofu. How do I like preparing tofu? I like putting this actually in the air fryer or on a skillet and pressing all the liquid out so it's a bit firmer and drier, and putting soy sauce on it or some other type of yummy sauce. It's really, really good. So definitely don't knock tofu until you prepared it the right way. Okay, so the next thing that I want to talk to you guys about are some snack options, and I gotta go over here quick. I have a big, just hodgepodge of food here. I didn't prepare anything per se, but in general, when it comes to a snack, it's a great opportunity to throw some convenient fruits and veggies into a reusable bag or so, into your purse or your book bag to take with you to practice rooms. Because in general, we want to kind of keep that metabolism going, and we want to fuel our bodies. You know, you are probably burning more calories than you think playing whatever instrument you play. And so you need to compensate for that by eating food. And also, I think it's important to not forget to eat food. When I was in the music conservatory and I got really stressed, I actually kind of went the opposite. So some people will overeat when they're stressed, and they'll resort to those sugary, high-fat foods that are those comfort foods, but then make them feel like crap later. I guess, for better or for worse, I had the opposite reaction. I forgot to eat, and I would honestly lose a lot of weight, which is not good either. So snacking is gonna be so important for active musicians. I generally recommend doing 2 to 3 foods at a snack time. This is a Honeycrisp apple, delicious. This is just an easy mozzarella, low sodium, low fat skim string cheese. And I've got a ton of carrots. So you might say, well, why the big bag? Well, I wanted to make a point. I thought about every detail. Buying in bulk like this can actually help you save money per serving. So I highly recommend you look into bulk buying, whether it's in bulk bins for seeds, nuts, whatever. I also recommend buying frozen fruits and vegetables. And the reason for that is because frozen fruits and vegetables are picked at the peak of their ripeness. So they'll always be fresh and ripe when you eat them. So really good money-saving tip. Okay. So I told you that I would talk about nutrients of concern and things to incorporate into your diet. We sort of talked about things to avoid, such as excess sugar, excess fatty, greasy foods, just because they don't really sit well with us. I wanted to talk again more about fiber and ways in which we can incorporate fiber. So you might laugh a little bit. One of my things as a dietitian is I talk about people's bowel movements all the time, and it's funny how frequently I have to bring this up to people, but it's a sign of health and it's important to be regular, okay? So we all know, hopefully, that prunes help that regularity. And why is this important? Well, having a good flow in your GI tract can prevent possible illnesses or chronic illnesses in the long term. It also helps keep our mood in an even keel when we're not constipated. And constipation, the risk of that increases when we sit for long periods of time. And so whether we have a desk job by day and then we go on to gig at night, or let's say we are a bass player or a cellist and we sit in a chair or on a stool for many hours per day without taking a jog or a lap around, things just get kind of bound up in there, and we need ways nutritionally to kind of help things flow through us. So prunes are an excellent source of fiber, and there's actually a type of sugar in prunes that help kind of create this natural laxative effect. So that's going to be really important. Also, some of the other things I mentioned, like the whole grains, the chickpea pastas, all of those, the apple, hey, the apple's a great source of fiber. All of those fiber-rich foods are going to be so important for you. Okay, but I would be remiss if I talked so much about fiber without highlighting the importance of hydration. Hydration, hydration, hydration. I cannot emphasize this enough. I, in the music conservatory, never drank enough water, and that's because I didn't have a handy dandy bottle like this. I also just didn't know why it was so important. Awareness creates action, and it precedes action. So hopefully you guys, this will be your reminder. If you haven't taken a sip of water today, bottoms up. Here we go. This is important because it helps keep everything circulating in our body. Our body is made of the majority water, and if we don't drink enough, we become at further risk of dehydration. Again, that brain fog, that fatigue, those feelings of irritability. I find that when I drink more water in the day, it actually improves my sleep, which then therefore translates to better practice sessions the next day, better crisp mental clarity, all of that. So some ways in which we can flavor our water without adding sugar would be just citrus. So lemon is a very, very essential part of the diet because it offers so much vitamin C, which helps keep our immunity up in the winter months. Obviously, when you're in practice rooms and you're touching a lot of doorknobs to get into rooms, there's just that increased risk of illness. So that would be my tip, or maybe you want to infuse your water with some frozen fruit like berries or so. All of those are great ways to increase your desire to drink more water, and it will ultimately help you so much in the long run. So those are my tips in a nutshell for healthy eating and nutrients for musicians. Hopefully that was helpful. Thanks again for tuning in today, everyone, and thank you to the Lotus Chamber Music Festival staff for inviting me to share my nutritious tips to all my fellow musicians. I wish you all the very best in your musical careers, and like I said, if you ever have any questions or want to learn more about ways to fuel your practice and play, please feel free to message me. Have a great rest of your summer.